everyone, it's Sophia, and since 2025 just started, I wanted to do a video recapping all of the books that I read in 2024. I think there was 20 total. A couple of them were for school, so I might not include them. But other than that, I feel like I had a really good reading year, and I really enjoyed most of the books that I read, so I'm excited to talk about them. The first book I read in 2024 is called Whistleblower, and this one is by Kate Marchant, and it's basically about this girl. Her name is Laurel Cates, and she studies journalism at her university, and she kind of starts to find like weird things going on with the football coach. But her friend that she meets, Bodie St. James, he's like the star quarterback. He's like, no, there's no way that anything's going on with coach. He treats me like a dad. So they two kind of like pair up. Basically, she's trying to prove that there is some stuff going on with the coach while he is trying to prove that there isn't. So like throughout the book they find evidence, and then they eventually start to kind of like form both a friendship and also like a romantic interest in each other. And then the end of the book kind of reveals what happens, like if they actually end up getting together and if she was right or if he was right. I really like this book. I give it 5 stars. Honestly, I haven't really seen too many people reading it, but I honestly really liked it, so I would recommend this one. The next 2 books that I've read, I don't actually physically own. I read them online. The first one though is called Blindside by Candy Steiner, and it was about this girl whose name is Gianna. She is like the public relations coordinator for her college, and she basically has to kind of like wrangle up the football players so that she can interview them. And so she kind of starts getting to know them. She finds out that one of them, I'm pretty sure he was a quarterback. It's always a quarterback. So one of the football players that she meets, his name is Clay Johnson, and she finds out that he just got broken up with and he's really heartbroken over his ex. And so they kind of devise a plan to where they're going to fake date so that Gianna can get her crush's attention while Clay makes his ex jealous. And then throughout the book, they just kind of like develop a friendship, and I don't know, maybe at the end there's something more. It's like pretty obvious what happens, but that's that book. I rated it 4 stars. Honestly, don't remember rating it that high. I'd probably give it like 3.5. The next one I read is called Wildfire. So the first book in the series is called Icebreaker. This is the second one in the series. So it follows 2 characters, Russ and Aurora, and they met up, I believe, in school. And like they get together, but after that there's like no more contact. And then during the summer, they both coincidentally become camp counselors at the same camp. At first they were trying to avoid each other, but over time they can't really help their attraction towards each other. I ended up rating it 4 stars. I'd probably give it like 3.7 because, okay, I have a Goodreads, and the thing with Goodreads is that you can't do 0.5 or like anything in between. It has to be either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So that's probably why I gave it that, but I don't remember being like that crazy about it. The next book is called Spring Tide, and it's by Keith Steffens. I think that's how you say it. But it's basically, I have to look at the screen because I don't really remember this one much. This one follows Harper, who has a crush on a football player. His name is Nate, and she really, really wants to get his attention, but he doesn't really notice her until she finds somebody named Luca who really needs her help because he's also on the, I think he's also on the football team, but he's like suffering from an injury, and she's studying something in medicine so she can kind of help them. So then they kind of start to develop feelings for each other throughout the book as they get to know each other, and I had given this book 4 stars. The next book I read is called Watch Your Mouth by Candy Steiner again, and this one is about like a brother's best friend. They're also like on the same team. I don't know if it was hockey. It might have been hockey. But yeah, this one I wasn't like super crazy about. I'd give it about like 3.5 stars. But it was like a pretty easy read overall. The next book I read is called Betting on You by Lynn Painter. She wrote Better Than the Movies. This girl named Bailey who meets this guy named Charlie on an airplane when they were like pretty young, and at first she really does not like him at all. Like, she's so excited that she never has to see him again after that plane ride where they're like sat next to each other. But a few years later, they both end up working at the same water park together, and then they start talking again. She remembers that she doesn't like him, so like for most of the book she really does not like him until they get to know each other more. and then she kind of starts to tolerate him until eventually they realize that they do actually like each other. Another big thing is that Charlie thinks that males and females can't be just friends, and Bailey really tries to prove to him that they can be just friends. And so, like, pretty much throughout the whole book, she also tries to prove that to him. I give this book 4 stars. And I read One of Us is Back, which is, I want to say, the 3rd book in the One of Us is Lying series. And this one's by Karen M. McCannis. And it takes place 4 years after Simon's death. There's a new murder in Bayview by like a copycat murderer. So the Bayview crew from the 1st book and then the 2nd book joined together to solve the murder. This next one is called The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. It is book number 2 in the Windy City series. And it follows Indy Ivers, who needs a place to live, and her best friend offers her brother's apartment to stay at just for a few months. And her brother's name is Ryan. He is a player for the NBA Devils, Chicago Devils. And so he's like really broody, really moody, like he really focuses on basketball. He doesn't really have many friends outside of that team, or just like in general really. And so the coach really picks up on that, and he thinks that he would be a better player and a better leader in his team if he would like actually have friends and like talk to people. So he devises a plan to use his sister's best friend to fake date, so that he can convince his coach that he's not just like a moody guy all the time, that he is a good leader and a good person to be on the team. This one I gave 5 stars. Then I read Better Than the Movies again. This is my 2nd time reading it. This one's by Lynn Painter. It's my 2nd time reading it just because I've read it maybe 2 years ago and I completely forgot anything really that happened. So yeah, I liked it both times. If you don't know, it's like a really common book, I feel. It follows Liz Buxbaum, who she's like a big romance girl. She wants to go after this guy named Michael, who used to go to school with them years before and is like coming back years later. And so she has a next door neighbor named Wes Bennett, who she really despises. They're always fighting over for the parking spot in between both their houses. She needs his help to kind of get her crush Michael's attention, and so he helps her out in return for the parking spot in their neighborhood. Overall, I would give this book 4 stars. The next book I also read online, and it's called The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. It is book number 2 in the Off-Campus series. I honestly don't remember liking this book. I think I'd read it online, so I don't know if it's just that they were missing pages or something, but it just felt really rushed. I don't know. The book just didn't feel complete to me, so it could totally be that the online version really did skip pages. But basically it follows this girl named Grace who has a little moment with one of the hockey players who's like known for being a player in both the rink and outside. His name is John Logan, but after that he kind of pushes her away, realizes what he's done, and he wants to get her back. It's like a second chance trope. I gave it 2 stars though. The next book I read is called People We Meet on Vacation by Hannah Grace, and it's about Alex and Poppy, who were best friends since college, and something happened. And at first they were going to so many trips together, like every single year. Even if they lived in different places, they would always go on a trip together no matter what, until something happens 2 years before this book takes place, to where they stop talking, they stop going on their trips together. And so this book talks about them going on one more trip together and seeing if they can like rekindle their friendship. I really loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I read it in the summer and I like could not put it down. I was so sad when it was over. I just loved their friendship. I don't know, I just thought it was so sweet. It's really loved them together. I was really rooting for them. All their stories with like their vacations seemed so fun. I really loved this, man. The next book I read is called Happy Place by Emily Henry, and this follows Wynn and Harper, who were 2 best friends who got together, they got engaged, and they had this big friend group, and every summer they went to this beach house. 6 months before this book takes place, they actually break up. They break off the engagement, but the friends let them know that the beach house that they go to every single year is no longer going to be theirs, so they only have one more trip there. So Win and Harper pretend to still be together during this beach trip, and I just loved this book so much. I loved like the summer vibes, the beach house, the friends. I just really liked it, and I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read is called Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and it follows a girl named Alexis Montgomery, and she is an ER doctor, but she for years has been feeling a lot of pressure from her family to be an ER doctor, to want to continue to like own the Montgomery hospital, and to like keep expanding it, even though deep down she really doesn't want to, and she's engaged. I think she was engaged to this guy that she doesn't even really like, until she meets this guy named Daniel. He's a carpenter. He owns like his own Airbnb in this small town, and he's 10 years younger than her. So they meet, they have a lot of chemistry, they really like each other, but she feels like she can't be with him, A, because he's 10 years younger, and B, because they live, I think, like 2 hours away from each other, and he's also not a doctor, so she feels that her parents wouldn't approve, and she really wants to please them. I gave it 4 stars. I wasn't really crazy about it. Honestly, I feel like I'd give it 3.5. Yeah, I just wasn't super into it. The next book I read is called Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one follows January Andrews and Augustus Everett. January is a really big romance writer, while Augustus likes to write like really sad, tragic stories. They become neighbors in neighboring beach houses, where they start to be in each other's circle more. They strike a deal where January is going to write more like sad, tragic book, while he is going to write a romance, like fluffy, fun book, which is really different from what they normally write, so it can help them get out of their own ruts. And over time, they really develop a great friendship. I give this book 4 stars. I really liked it. I liked their friendship. I really liked the idea of them having to get out of their comfort zone, writing about something that they don't normally write about. The next one I read is called Normal People by Sally Rooney, and this one is about Marianne and Connell. And Connell is like super popular at school. He plays soccer. Meanwhile, Marianne, nobody really talks to her. She's a loner. People don't really like her. So like socially, they are not the same. They don't even interact. But once they're alone, they're together really often. Like they develop a friendship. And then over time, they just get like really self-destructive tendencies. Sometimes they're together, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're talking, other times they haven't spoken for a while or communicated. So it's really back and forth book, but I liked it. I thought it was interesting, like something different that I hadn't really heard of before. And I also like there's some pretty good quotes in here. Find it. I think it was in 251. Oh no, it's 239. I think we're at that weird age where life can change a lot from small decisions. And it says, when we were together in first year of college, she says, were you lonely then? No. Were you? No. I was frustrated sometimes, but not lonely. I never feel lonely when I'm with you. I just thought that was really cute. I really liked it. Give it 4 stars. And I read a book called A Court of Thorns and Roses. I borrowed the book from a friend in college. It's about this girl named Feyre. She's a huntress, and so one night she's in the woods and she ends up killing a wolf. And because she did that, she is summoned to this like magical land where she has to stay for the rest of her life, as punishment for what she did. There's like fairies and a guy named Tamlin, who's a beast, who actually ends up kind of like softening up to her. And then all of a sudden, this really big thing happens in the land that puts everybody in danger, and that's kind of where the story starts. And I give that 5 stars because I really, really loved it. Then I read Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. This one is still with Liz and Wes, and it follows them during their junior year of college. They broke up a couple years prior, and throughout this book, Wes is just doing literally everything he can to get Liz back. And it's really cute. I really love this book, and I just love them together. I really recommend this one. I give it 5 stars. This one is called L'étranger. It's in French because I had to read it for my French class, but they also have it in English. It's called The Stranger, and honestly I thought it was pretty interesting, especially for like a book that you have to read in school. It follows this guy named Merceau who thinks life is meaningless. Everything he does, he's like, well, life is meaningless. I don't care. Like the beginning has a crazy line. Translate. So it says, today mom is dead, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. That's crazy. Not knowing when your mom died. He's just like, he's really indifferent to everything, really emotionless. Even with the people like that he becomes friends with, he rekindles with one of his old co-workers named Maria, and she's like, do you like me? Do you love me? And he's like, whatever. And she's like, do you want to get married? And he's like, there's no point in getting married. I thought it was pretty interesting. There's a big plot twist. It's like a two-parter in one book. There's a big plot twist in the middle. I give it 4 stars. I thought it was pretty interesting. I read a book called The Graham Effect, and it is like the second generation of the off-campus series The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which follows Hannah Wells and Garrett Graham. So it's basically their daughter, whose name is Gigi Graham. She plays hockey as well, and she really wants to get into this program, but she needs some help behind the net. So she uses one of the like really great hockey players in the men's hockey team named Luke Ryder to help her. Meanwhile, he needs her help to get in good graces again with Garrett Graham, her dad, because he wants to be a part of his like hockey team program thing. So yeah, they kind of use each other and they start developing a friendship, and you can kind of guess the rest. I gave this one 4 stars. I wasn't super into it. I don't know, I just wasn't like really attached to the characters too much. The last book I read is called Trouble in the Books by Essie Lang. This one was about a girl named Shelby Cox who inherits like a bookstore in this new city. So pretty quickly into starting to work there and starting to kind of run the business, there is a murder at like the nearby lake. And so throughout this whole book, she tries to find who was the murderer, and she really goes around like questioning everybody and trying to get to the bottom of it. Wasn't super into this book either, so I would give it 3 stars in total. Thank you guys so much for watching my recap of every single book I read in 2024. Maybe you got some ideas for what you want to read this coming year. If you have any favorites, make sure to leave them below, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye!